Alright, so here we are after the AOT finale. Will I criticize this episode? Yes. Did I enjoy the episode? After everything is said and done, I thought this was a good ending to the show. The reason I liked it was also kind of the reason why I have a lot of issues with it. What made this so good was that it had all the elements and building blocks to be perfect, and I liked it because I recognized it. What I hated was how close Isayama and the gang were to perfection but botched the execution.
Do it again. Show your process.
Well, first I draw this head, then I erased some of the more detailed features, and 1, 2, 3, a circle thing.
It is possible that a lot of people did enjoy. I know a lot of people enjoyed it a lot, and that is completely fine. But for me personally, this thing has been in the works for almost a decade. I mean, this is one of the best shows I have ever seen, hands down. So to see the final episode have all that potential to reach that perfection one last time, and it did not, sorry, but I have some things to say about it. So, Isayama and the gang manages to create scenes of pure art, while also fumbling some of the most crucial moments that were needed to transcend it. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is still one of the anime GOATs to me, just that it was so close. Look at the scene where Falco juxtaposes his wings onto Mikasa, and man, that is so good. It shows Mikasa's courage and power in the most desperate of situations. She's facing an army of titans. The whole crew has their back against the wall. Things are not looking good, right? She says, "I am strong," as if in defiance of their circumstance. But she's not alone. Behind her, Falco spreads his wings, creating this contrast with her. His wings are not black, but they're made to seem black in that shot, matching Mikasa's color scheme. The wings also symbolize the emblem of the Survey Corps. Dude, it was executed so well that for a second I thought Mikasa grew them. This is how you add so much meaning to a scene without expending a single line of dialogue. I mean, you can say the same about the baby one, right? Represents the desire to pass on life even in the most critical circumstances. This scene shows the horror and despair of people who are trapped between the Titans and the sea. They have no escape, no hope, no future. They're all black and white, and I think it represents a lack of significance, imminent death. They're about to die, right? But there is one exception. A mother holding a baby. The baby is the only thing that is in color, which is a sign of life. She raises the baby above her head, trying to offer it to anyone who can save it. She falls off the cliff, but the baby doesn't. Someone grabs the baby, lifts it up, and then someone else, and then another. The baby is passed from one hand to the other, from person to person, from heart to heart. The last sign of hope, the last symbol of humanity, the last spark of life, and man, I'm telling you, it feels like, and I'm going to say something similar to Armin did, that everyone holding that baby were born just for that moment, just to pass life forward. This scene has multiple layers of meaning. It is a contrast between life and death, hope and despair, colors, black and white. This is what I wanted to see from start to finish. Everything squeezed out from Isayama one last time for this episode. This is what sets normal stuff apart from greatness. I have grown to dislike most anime because I'm kind of numb to it. They feel like sequences of events happening for the sake of happening. Events I have seen play out like a million times. Shonens, isekais are a big culprit for sure. It is the creativity, not the moment-to-moment stuff. Not only the action. It is the meaning, not only the plot. It is the message, not only the dialogue. So, one of the more important parts of Act 1 is also the thing that makes it feel weird in terms of pacing. I couldn't articulate this until the next day when I realized that they introduced a whole side mission inside the main mission when Armin got captured. On one hand, Armin's capture is a must because it puts him in a critical, introspective moment with himself, which leads to his resolve of blowing up Eren with his transformation. It also segues into the conversation between him and Zeke. On the other hand, getting to Eren gets delayed once again, and the focus is temporarily shifted from that to this other thing which I did not know was important in the moment. So, diverting away from the objective felt like I was being ripped away from what I was waiting for all this time, which was kind of annoying. Of course, now I know why it was important. Armin being trapped inside this Titan is such a crucial character setup moment. We get a window seat into his inner conflict and the buildup of his resolve to end his best friend. 10 years ago, this timid, insecure kid dreamt of seeing the outside world with Eren and Mikasa. Now, he is about to kill his boy, and I need it to be believable. The void is a representation of the isolation and helplessness. He's in the dark and silent void, where he can only hear his own thoughts. He feels like a failure and blames himself for not being able to stop Eren, hates himself for being weak and indecisive. He also hates Eren for forcing him into such a situation and for betraying their friendship and their dreams, and I get all of these emotions watching this scene because the episode lets me see Armin going from "we can't do this" to "well, we have to do this." Once again, we come to another point which lets me see how much potential this episode contained. The scene between Armin and Zeke in the paths is an example of alternate point of view, where the writer switches between different perspectives of the characters to create effects like contrast or suspense. Quentin Tarantino is a well-known example for using these techniques, but on a much larger scale. In this case, the alternate point of view is used to highlight the difference between Armin and Zeke's philosophies and what they consider meaningful from their own perspectives. Armin tries to convince Zeke that there is more to life than death and despair by sharing such a simple but meaningful memory of running up a hill with Mikasa and Eren. This is Armin's happiness and purpose, and it is represented in the paths by the leaf he picks up. Zeke, however, does not see the leaf, but a baseball, which is a symbol of his own happiness and purpose when he played catch with the doctor, who was like a father figure to him. We are sort of brought back to Zeke's trauma and guilt and how he lost touch with his humanity. The connection between Zeke and Armin is created through visual metaphors instead of mediocre dialogue, and I want you to remember these moments because things will not be so great. The fumbling hasn't started yet. So Zeke gets out of the paths up on top of this spike for one last time, right? Levi acts immediately, and exactly like his character would. He doesn't hesitate, goes for the kill instantly. The scene itself is very fast, as it should have been. The thing is, I did not enjoy Zeke's death. Now, I'm not really aware of the general consensus of how people perceive this, but I would be hard-pressed to believe that people actually enjoyed it. His death was too fast and downplayed, and he deserved way more closure as a character. I wanted Zeke to have a moment of recognition that he was about to die and to express his emotions through his facial expressions at the very least. I wanted the scene to be slightly longer and more impactful instead of moving on so quickly. What I got was the feeling that they just wanted to be done with it. He kind of felt insignificant in the way he went out, and I don't think he deserved it. He has contributed so much to the story just to die like that. I mean, I did say I enjoyed the quickness of his death because it is very characteristic of what Levi would do, right? But that is not the issue here. What if, say, Zeke emerged from the paths, right? He looks around and sees the clear sky and peaceful landscape. He smiles until he notices Levi and their eyes meet, and Zeke instantly feels fear and pain and, most importantly, realization of his own death. He realizes in the moment how poetic of an ending it is. Now, what bothers me so much is how easily this could have been conveyed through facial expressions, and it would have taken 30, 60 seconds max? All they needed to do was make Zeke recognize his own death, and he himself, at his last moments, would have had the closure. Instead, they blindsided him. So as much as I was satisfied with how Armin's arc turned out, I don't think I can say the same about Mikasa. Mikasa delivering the final blow is only one of the most important moments? Unlike the scenes I talked about earlier, this one was ultimately disappointing. It did not make me feel the rush or the sadness or the release I was looking for. Now, was it serviceable? Sure. Like I said, I'm very confident that many even liked it. I just had a weird taste in my mouth after seeing how it was executed. Remember when I emphasized the need for Armin's arc to be believable? The display of frustration, pain, realization, and inner turmoil necessary to justify killing his best friend was evident in Armin's case. Not only was the build-up not there for Mikasa, but the general execution of the moment, the lead-up to that moment, her character development towards that point when she delivered the final blow were not that good. She went from, "I can't take this anymore, my head hurts," to smiling while chopping Eren's head off in a matter of minutes. And it's so jarring to watch this in real time. So, we are at the point where blowing up Eren did not kill him. The centipede is loose, and Levi tells Mikasa that they need to get a grip. Mikasa responds by saying she can't do this anymore because she is clearly overwhelmed. That's fine. Now the show cuts away from the battle to a seemingly alternate reality setting where they're having a conversation, Mikasa and Eren. So right now, I'm trying to kind of understand whether or not this is a flashback or if she is hallucinating. It cuts away from the action and puts me in a location I'm uncertain of. Breaking away from the tense moment is in itself not bad, but this is important for later. The subject of Mikasa and Eren's conversation is Eren asking her to forget him and be free, but ultimately she refuses to forget and give up on Eren, right? This is the section where the writers needed to give them a dialogue exchange that would have built Mikasa towards that final moment of having to kill Eren, develop towards the fact that she needs to kill him, towards accepting that Eren needs to die, but nothing even comes close to that. My problem is their dialogue exchange does not do a good job of building her resolve to the point I can believe that she would be smiling while killing him. The jump is way too lateral. Sure, you can argue that they had no time. Exactly. If you did not have time, you should have gone in a different direction for how Mikasa would respond to these moments. The smiling itself is not bad because that emotion would have been understood if there had been a proper setup to it. So, how do we make this slightly better? Same as what I suggested with Zeke. Why not remove the part where Mikasa is smiling and just replace her facial expressions with pain and regret and really bring the audience to that emotional climax? She finally broke her shackles. She made it so far, suffered so much, and ultimately had to kill the one she loved. Why not just let Mikasa hold Eren's head in her arms and we see how broken and deeply sorry she is? At that moment, maybe she expresses how much she loves Eren and how she has always loved him. Instead, I get a scene where Mikasa kisses Eren's decapped head. Why? I am not a child. I do not need to see two humans kiss to understand that they truly love each other. Mikasa's love for Eren transcends physical contact, but I get this weird scene where the anime is essentially forcing this on me. It is extremely out of place, unnecessary, and it did not need to happen. The impact and meaning of this moment are ruined because of garbage fan service. It should have been cathartic, emotional, not just for her but for all of us. Once again, you're making me scratch my head in a moment that is of such importance. Instead of being taken to that emotional climax, I'm not gonna lie, I kind of felt stupid watching it. Let us not forget about Ymir. Her presence during the kiss scene is so much more meaningful than they portrayed in the anime that it is kind of frustrating. So, it is revealed by Eren that Ymir, despite possessing godlike powers, was rendered powerless against King Fritz due to quote-unquote love. Not only is this word a cheap way to summarize why Ymir has been trapped for 2,000 years, it is also reductive. The show simply refuses to dive deeper into the complexities of Ymir's bond with Mikasa and Eren. The horrors inflicted upon her by King Fritz go far beyond the word love. Why Ymir became so attached to Eren goes far beyond the word love. Why she has been using Mikasa to protect Eren goes far beyond the word love. Why Mikasa killing Eren, releasing herself from Ymir, releasing Ymir from Eren, and releasing Eren from himself at the same time goes far beyond the word love. If you think about it, right? Think about it. Ymir has Stockholm Syndrome. Much of her subservience and obedience is a coping mechanism, locking her into an eternal cycle to serve the royal family. Her desire to protect Eren is also partially born out of that prison she is trapped in. She probably also has a special connection with him in that she was drawn to his desire to be free and end suffering. And even though it may be kind of speculative, it is not far-fetched to believe she wanted to realize and fulfill Eren's vision. That's why she helped Eren start the rumbling, and that's why we see Ymir protecting him through Mikasa. Towards the beginning of the episode, all the titans the scouts were fighting were Ymir's titans trying to protect Eren. There is so much more going on under the word love that it feels criminal when they truly explore none of it. Eren saying he does not know why Ymir is connected to Mikasa is just the final nail in the coffin. When they do not seamlessly connect everything together, the audience cannot have that eureka moment where everything clicks, and Mikasa holding Eren's head becomes one of the most well-constructed death scenes in anime. If any show deserved it, AOT did. So I want to play around with a hypothetical situation, the interaction between Eren and Armin. Let's say Eren starts by explaining his motivations and why he did what he did. He also talks about Ymir and Mikasa and how he has always liked her. They have a friendly and lighthearted exchange at the beginning of their conversation instead of having it later on like we see in the episode. Eren finally decides to come clean. The scene changes to the volcanic landscape and he begins to confess. This is a moment of introspection. He's talking to Armin, but he's also talking to himself. He reveals how he has caused so much destruction, how he has killed so many people, including some of his friends, and endangered and almost killed the people who loved him so many times. As he speaks, Eren's internal conflict escalates. The more he puts his actions into words, the more he realizes the gravity and the severity of what he has done. He feels like a madman for doing the things that he did. And this realization can be portrayed beautifully through dialogue, animation, imagery, with so much detail and finesse. Think back to the state of agony that Grisha felt after he was forced to kill the Fritz family with his own hands. So, Eren's madness reaches its peak when he tells Armin that he is the one who killed his own mother. This is a moment of just horror for both Armin and the audience, because it is on the same level as when he forced his own father to kill the Fritz family. It becomes extremely hard for him to face the world that he has created. And this is where I want the display of pure emotions. Armin naturally feels extremely betrayed and hurt by this revelation and lashes out. Eren tries to justify and defend his actions, but of course he cannot do that. He knows he cannot. So we keep on kind of riding this wave of internal and external conflict, this push and pull between Eren and Armin. And then finally, Eren calms down and confesses to all his crimes as if he were in front of a judge. He reveals how he has been simulating genocide, and the reveal is very shocking. Say either through imagery or through the delivery of the dialogue itself. We see him finally break his character, and he is utterly broken. His raw emotion is displayed. Armin sees this state and feels sympathy and compassion for his best friend and is willing to look past the errors. This is where we hear Armin probably deliver one of the best monologues in all of anime. Eren realizes how could he have done anything to jeopardize the one person who cared so much about him. They're brothers and they love each other deeply. The scene ends with them embracing each other in a hug, with their mouths closed, and everything gets very emotional, right? Keep this hypothetical in mind as we break down what actually happened in the episode. So of course, I am expecting the final moments of a show, especially like AOT, to be very impactful, to be very emotional. Well, regardless of what happened in Act 2, I am expecting artistic greatness as I witnessed with, for example, the baby scene, right? Because surely Isayama and the gang would squeeze every ounce of available brain juice to make these final exchanges the best they possibly could be, right? The entire thing is ruined by poor transitions, tones, and dialogues. So the scene starts with Eren revealing that he has pulled a Lelouch. And, I'll touch on this later because there's not much for me to add here. Now, Eren also talks about Ymir and Mikasa and successfully explains everything and nothing at the same time. Then the scene shifts to a volcanic landscape where Eren confesses and reveals he is the one who killed his own mother by sending Dinah towards her. This is a shocking and heartbreaking reveal that should have created a lot of emotional impact and conflict between Eren and Armin, but instead Armin completely downplays it and says, "Let's go." Well, you're thinking, what's the problem with that? The problem is missed potential replaced by mediocre. This is a big issue because that piece of dialogue and the very abrupt scene and tonal change massively undermines the significance of what Eren said, and it makes Armin seem indifferent. It wastes the potential to explore the tension and the drama that could have been generated by this reveal. So the background and tone changes to a blue sky where Eren and Armin are having a lighthearted conversation about Mikasa, and Eren completely breaks character. He starts crying like a baby and says things he has never said before, like something like, "I want Mikasa to revere me like 10 years after I'm gone," like something weird. Anyways, to me, however, the shift in tone, atmosphere, and mood is a problem because it contradicts the previous volcano scene completely. They could have easily had this Mikasa conversation before Eren started to get serious, or after Eren and Armin hugged, not right in the middle of another conversation. Like, why are you interrupting? Why? Why not go from Eren talking about his mom to the red, bloody landscape where Eren talks about genocide simulation? String everything together coherently. Instead, it goes from not serious to serious to not serious to serious. Dude, are you serious? What happens is that these issues affect the build-up to the moment when Eren and Armin hug, and as a result, that scene is not as impactful as it could have been. Armin's dialogue is also not very good prior to the hug. In my opinion, the show fails to deliver a satisfying and emotional conclusion to the conversation between Eren and Armin, which is supposed to be one of those moments. The build-up feels unnecessarily incoherent and random, and that is not good. Some other annoyances in the moment include Eren saying he's a garden variety idiot once again, downplaying his own actions. You're an idiot for driving without a seatbelt. You are something else for trying to wipe most humans off of the planet. And I kind of did not enjoy the lack of recognition when it was set up to be a moment of recognition. Also, instead of cutting to Armin seeing dead Eren right away after their hug scene so that emotion hits even harder, they cut to Armin on a ship with seagulls first, as if that was necessary. Alright, finally, to wrap things up, I liked how they revealed that Eren had been communicating with everyone through a vision that only became clear when he died. I appreciated the overall ending and how the world changed, but the conflict never ended. I think that is a very realistic depiction of hatred and conflict in the AOT world. As for Isayama copping out on Eren's Lelouch-like sacrifice and the ending having a similar vibe to Evangelion, I did not mind either of those choices in the grand scheme of things. I think Lelouch's death was very good, and even though Eren fell short of that, it makes sense that he would choose a path that would allow his friends to overcome the hatred if they killed him. I also enjoyed the Evangelion-style ending where it is implied that the cycle begins again. And most importantly, I rated the episode highly because I recognized that it had all the elements it needed to be amazing, but the execution was lacking. Overall, I think this was a good end to the series.